Welcome to another edition of U.S. Cricket Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Major League Cricket 2024. I'm Della Penna, alongside Aaman Patel, and coming up, we'll bring you everything that happened in today's contest between the San Francisco Unicorns, who took down LA Knight Riders. Well, Aaman, I say San Francisco Unicorns took down LA Knight Riders. Final margin was 6 wickets, chasing a target of 166 with 4.4 overs to spare. They took him down. They didn't just take him down. This was a colossal beatdown. They opened a can of whoop-ass on the LA Knight Riders, especially Finn Allen, who took a page out of the Sonny Corleone playbook, going to find Carlo and beat him down in the middle of the street for everybody to witness and send a message, don't mess with Finn Allen. 63 off 37 balls, 4 fours, 5 sixes, alongside Matthew Short, combining for a century partnership. Matthew Short, 58 off 26 balls, 3 fours, 5 sixes. Let's start with the chase. Aaman, what was your big takeaway?
The San Francisco Unicorns, even though they lost Matthew Wade and Marcus Stoinis, didn't lose that firepower up top the order. I think that was the biggest question, right? We saw last season their power plays were terrific. They were really, I think, the only team to have 2 scores of 200 plus, whether they were chasing or defending. So they were able to, when they were defending scores, they were able to put up 200 runs on the board. So they could always score runs. And now it's, okay, you've added 2 new pieces. How do they insert themselves? Jake Frazier McGurk doesn't get going today, but Matthew Short coming off maybe the best big bash of his career, averaging 60 at a strike rate above 150. First ball in, I mean, he took him to the cleaners. They were talking about how he's more of a technical bat and maybe just going to find his way around with ones for a while. And first ball, he took him to the cleaners. So it was just impressive displays with the bat. They never got bogged down. Even early on, Courtney Dry had a 2-run over, and they still were aggressive. And the top order seems to play with this kind of freedom of, they're not worried about that middle order, which is something you don't quite see from a lot of these teams because of the fact that oftentimes if the top order is where all the internationals are, you tend to worry a little bit about the middle order. This team just doesn't seem to have that fear because Corey Anderson's in the middle, because Josh Inglis is to come, because a guy like Hassan Khan is sitting there as domestic. So I was just impressed by the bad display. Matthew Short is in prime form. Finn Allen looked good. And Jake Frazier McGurk is going to come good in some time. So this is a team that, again, is going to live and die on that power play batting.
Finn Allen, you talked about the power play. Wrapping up the power play, I mentioned the Sonny Corleone comparison. Well, he essentially took the role of James Conn and turned Shakib Al-Hassan into the role of Carlo there in the 6th over. And actually, it started in the 5th over. He ended the 5th over against Andre Russell, hitting 2 sixes. And then in the 6th over, after Matthew Short got a single to get off strike with the first ball, 3 consecutive sixes. So 5 sixes and 5 balls for Finn Allen. Just utter carnage in Grand Prairie. Aaman, what was the most impressive part for you about that whole sequence?
I think it was just his ability to find length. I don't think Shakib was bowling that short, to be honest, but he got onto the back foot so quickly and showed immense power. It was also smart the way he batted. He was hitting with the breeze, even though it was against the turn. He's hitting with the breeze. He's looking to take advantage of the things around him. And I think the one knock on Finn Allen's maybe international career was just the consistency and then just the awareness, right? Building that awareness in his gameplay. And I thought that's what he had today. He was put down one time by Ali Khan, but I thought that there was a complete awareness about his game of where he wanted to play. Everything was very much planned out why he was playing in a particular direction. And when Finn Allen's on, it's tough to stop. And Shakib Al Hassan was the one who had to pay the price today.
And Shakib finished with figures of none for 27 in 2 overs. Another interesting thing about this chase, we saw the strategy used by LA Knight Riders in their first match victory, holding Ali Khan back to overs 14, 16, 18, and 20. Well, that only works if your bowlers are doing a decent job in the first half of the chase. And by the time Ali Khan came on tonight in the 9th over, the required equation was already down to a run a ball. And with the partnership going as strong as it was between Finn Allen and Matthew Short, it really rendered Ali Khan toothless, and a lot of the other bowlers toothless as well. You can't approach bowling the same way, and already at the start of his spell, he was going around the wicket. He was trying to bowl wide Yorkers wide outside off stump. He wasn't really attacking the stumps looking for wickets. He was just trying to dry up runs. And even that wasn't working because they were still hitting him for runs. Just seemed like nothing was working. Where do you think things went wrong on the bowling side, or was there just nothing they could do to prevent the onslaught that was being put to them by the Unicorns?
I think it's an interesting point because I think at some point you gotta tip your hat to the batters and say they just had themselves a day. I thought what I took away was I thought the Knight Riders maybe got too defensive too early. It felt like early on the batters weren't Fraser McGurk swung and missed about three times. Finn Allen swung and missed about three times. Cornet Dry had a two run over we mentioned, and so it was just about they were just holding things down. They took that wicket, and then from there, I felt they could get a little bit more aggressive in attack. And once Finn Allen and Matthew Shore started hitting, it just felt that they went on to the back foot. And I thought Sunil Ryan could have been a little bit more aggressive, bringing himself on in the power play, or maybe just right after it instead of maybe that second Cornet Dry over. I know Cornet again went for the two-run over his first one up, but at that point, these two have put the runs on the board. What you're looking for now is a wicket. You have to break it, and you turn to your best bowler. And Sunil Ryan's well experienced and more than good enough to bowl in any situation. So for me, I just thought they got too defensive too early, and just let the game come to them instead of trying to go at the game.
Now, let's take a look at the bowling side in the first innings for the Unicorns. Well, before we even get to the bowling side, first off, the starting 11. In season one, Unicorns were unchanged throughout the entire season, which meant that a number of players didn't get to play. Two guys who saw their first action for the Unicorns in any way. Sanjay Krishnamurti, the 21-year-old, who's born in Oregon, mostly brought up in Arizona, then moved to Bangalore to do some training there before coming back to California. He's been bouncing around the place. But he made his debut for USA a couple years ago on the tour of Oman just after COVID. Finally gets a debut tonight, and it's a memorable one for him for all the wrong reasons. He got a thanks for coming. Thank you for coming, Sanjay. You're on the winning side. Didn't bat, didn't bowl, but the only way to go is up from there, Sanjay. You've got better things to look forward to in your career, but hey, at least you're part of a winning side tonight. And we talked about him potentially playing for a spot between him and Kareem Agor, and Sanjay Krishnamurti was the one who got into the 11, but obviously didn't get a chance to do much. But hey, they won, so you can't complain too much. The other guy, though, who made an impact playing his first match, a dual national, Brody Couch, born in Australia, but he's got an American mother whose roots are in New York, and he was the shining bowler tonight. 2 wickets in his spell, finished with figures of 2 for 24 in the first innings for Unicorns. Only went on a run of ball, which is impressive considering the fact that just about everybody else was going nearly 10 and over. Harris Ralph, 2 for 38. Matthew Short, none for 38. Abrar Ahmed, 1 for 33. And Liam Plunkett, 1 for 29. It was a big one. He got Jason Roy up, bowled, swinging across the line. But Brody Couch, there was an awful lot of chatter, Aaman, for people in the U.S. cricket community because he was one of those Aussie dual nationals who was left out of the USA T20 World Cup squad for what a lot of people would deem to be dubious reasons. Principally the fact that he's got a full-time career in Australia, and for some inexplicable reason, USA Cricket thought the best way to demonstrate your capability of playing for USA in the World Cup is to sacrifice your professional career in Australia just to show up in Texas for 2 days of cricket. He decided not to do that, but he's here in Texas now for MLC. What impressed you about his debut tonight for the Unicorns?
I think what's impressive about Brody is just the pace that he possesses, Peter. We were there last year at the Combine, and that was kind of my first introduction live to Brody Couch. I see him take a couple of catches in the BBL, but to see him bowl in person, you see there's more pace than you'd expect coming off of Brody, and he comes up off a length. And what impressed me today was the swing that he got. I mean, you saw the delivery ball to Jason Roy. I think it was in his second over. Was to me might have been the delivery of the day. Just that ball swinging away, straightening up. It was 89 miles an hour on a length, and that was where I said, okay, all right, this is where Brody Couch can really be effective. Because remember, this is a San Francisco Unicorns team that really liked Carmine LaRue last season. From the left, opened the bowling in every match, took wickets, and they leave him out for Brody Couch. And, those are some big shoes to fill, knowing you're going to have to pick up the new ball and bowl. So for him to do that, I was super impressed. Again, I think his pace is something that it's surprising for those who see him for the first time, but it's kind of the trade that goes around with him. But it was a swing that he had off that surface that was really impressive to go along with bowling 89 miles an hour. I think this kid's got a long career ahead of him.
Well, and you talked about the swing, and one of the things that made that possible was just, in my mind, keeping it simple. He just didn't try to do anything too fancy. He just bowled good cricket balls, whether they're 4-day cricket, 1-day cricket, T20 cricket. He bowled in good areas in that regard. He kept it simple. And he's somebody who doesn't try to have a clouded mind. He does keep it simple. He's a simple guy. When we met him last year in Texas at the Combine, I remember introducing myself to him, and I said, so I'm just curious, how do you qualify to play for USA? I know you're a dual citizen, and he talked about his mother's roots in New York. And I said, oh, have you ever been up there? He said, oh, yeah, she's from Albany. I said, what part of Albany? And he goes, 220 Lincoln Road. It's just very direct. Gives the exact street address. Like, no, I meant like the general area, Brody. And he's he's on the farm, 220 Lincoln. I'm thinking to myself, I just kind of stood there and it's like, was that the actual answer he just gave? he doesn't overthink things. He doesn't try to overcomplicate it. He's very direct. And you saw that in his bowling performance tonight.
Yeah, I mean, again, he like you mentioned, he doesn't overthink it. His first over might have been a little too short. All right, I'll just go ahead, pitch it up. You didn't see him try to do a lot different. His kind of variation was bowling that block hole. We see him do it to Andre Russell, going wide and full. Again, he just kept it simple, did his game, and I think that's really the most impressive thing. Even at the Combine, talking to him, you can see he's just very confident and assured of what he can do, and he just lets his game talk. He's not going to try to. He's not looking around saying, okay, like this guy does this well. What does that mean for me? It's like, okay, if this guy does it well, maybe I can try it. But these are things I do well, and I'm just going to back my abilities. And it worked for him tonight. So, now the Unicorns have an interesting question. Is Carmine LaRue finding his way back into the side? Is Brody Couch the guy that they're going to roll with because he is a little bit better of a bat maybe than Carmine? So some questions to be had now domestically.
And in terms of things to learn too, I thought it was instructive how he approached things. And again, to back up what you just talked about, you see some guys who bowl a couple good balls and then either they lose concentration, they lose focus, or they think that's not good enough, a dot ball or a single, and they try to search for wickets. They try to do something fancy, and you see that from somebody like Jesse Singletons for USA, where he'll bowl 3-4 good balls in an over, and then ball 5 or ball 6 goes for a 4 or 6, and it's because he's searching for a wicket at times instead of just keeping it simple, building pressure, bowling in partnerships. And that is another thing that, to me, impressed me about the way Brody Couch went about things tonight, because he has Harris Ralph at one end, and then after Harris Ralph came out of the attack, he has Liam Plunkett too bowling in tandem, and it just allowed Brody Couch to have an opportunity to succeed in a very solid way tonight. US Cricket Daily is brought to you in association with Clyde Hill Publishing and its book imprints, Clyde Hill and Pulley Press, which are dedicated to founders, innovators, thinkers, and tinkerers everywhere. Pre-order our book on the rise of Major League Cricket in America at ClydeHillPublishing.com. In terms of the Knight Riders batting, Unmuchand going from hero to zero, literally out for a duck, 5-ball duck, one of Brody Couch's 2 victims tonight. Top scorer in the innings, Andre Russell, 40 not out off 25 balls, 2 4s, 3 6s. They were struggling to post a competitive total of 130 for 6 in the 17th over before Andre Russell came in and gave a big surge to the end of the innings, 35 runs off the last 19 balls for the Knight Riders, but it wound up not being enough in the end. Where do you think, if anything, things went wrong in terms of the batting side that allowed them to not post a competitive total?
These were the Knight Riders of last year. These are Knight Riders that went winless. This was a display where we saw last year they weren't able to score runs early, and it put a lot on their middle order, and they would get to 160, and you felt, wow, they've got to 160, and then you sit there and think, man, it's going to get better to bat on the surface. And it was a similar story here. So Ryan hasn't looked like he did in the IPL opening the batting. When McJohn's looking to pull a ball that was a little bit too full, I think the line undid him. He's looking to play a little swivel pull that he's come to love and show so much of here in the States. And just wasn't there to play. And this is the reason that I think Shakib Halasana is in this team over a guy like Adam Zampa, right? You have a leggy in the squad, but you go for the extra bat because they were, I think, nervous about what that top order had done last season. So you try to give yourself some more room between, the top order and Dre Russ and David Miller. Try to give some cushion. The good things for them is that Jason Roy, I think, is not in the rut of form he was. He hasn't quite found it, but you can see him start to play and connect. I think Shakib has had his moments. Nitish Kumar's played some nice shots, had a 6 today. But this team is going to find more success the moment they start to get more consistent performances in the top 3. I think they need at least one of their top 3 to bat through the power play, get themselves to 40, because it just sets the game up. You see what Dre Russ can do off just 25 balls, but you don't want him in there too early. You don't want him in there when you've got some swing maybe, or you want him in this game, in the situation where he's best. As a finisher, you can come in, hit the ball. You have one of the better finishers in T20 cricket, and David Miller. So they have a good middle order, and I think that for them, it's just, all right, rework that top order, rethink how you're going to do it and approach it. I do think your best opening pair is Jason Roy and Sunil Ryan, but just how can you find more consistent performances up top?
Well, there you have it for today's game down in Grand Prairie, Texas. Let's take a look now at the game coming up next, which is going to be in your neck of the woods, Aaman, in Morrisville, where Washington Freedom will be taking on the Texas Super Kings. Freedom had a season-opening win there over MI New York over the weekend, and the Super Kings are going to be flying in from Texas for that contest as they search for their first win of the campaign. Where's your money on this one, Aaman?
I mean, it's close, right? I think Texas didn't play a bad game. They just had 11 balls kind of changed their fortunes. I think this is going to be a really close one because of, I think Texas would feel pretty confident with the bats that they have, that they were playing well. Again, you just had Ali Khan have one of those magical spells, but Washington's also going to feel pretty confident. I think that the interesting question is now the rest of that Washington batting lineup. We only saw 3 batters, right? Now you still have Glenn Maxwell, who hasn't played a single match, or hasn't seen a single ball in Morrisville in the middle in a Major League Cricket game. Mukhtar Ahmed's a big question in that team. Obis Pinar played well last year. Is he going to find that same success? There's some questions with the bat in hand. I still like Washington because I think their bowlers understand the surface. They've seen it. They know what to do, what not to do. They have a lot of variety. But I think this could be a really interesting test for the Freedom batters if it gets to it.
All right, and now we're going to go to some viewer feedback. Again, you can contact us on US Cricket Daily at hello@uscricketdaily.com. That's the email account you can connect with us on, and also you can reach out over Twitter at US Cricket Daily, Instagram, TikTok as well. Joe Hickey, the ground announcer, who is there in New York throughout the T20 World Cup, and is also doing ground announcing duties in the venues at Major League Cricket, says, following up on your give that man a contract shout on the previous episode, Aaman, that was, according to Joe Hickey, it was an homage to Rex Barney, R.I.P. Rex Barney, the legendary Baltimore Orioles PA man. That was first, then second, the chance I've had to pay tribute to him, and I wasn't going to miss it. And that's in reference to Joe Hickey's call from inside the ground, which Aaman referenced in the previous episode. There was a couple crowd catches, one by the groundsman, the head groundsman, and then another one in the bleachers. And Aaman is the one who told us that Joe Hickey shouted out, "Give that man a contract," over the PA system. So that's what it was about, according to Joe Hickey, and we are hoping we can get Joe Hickey on at some point. Another great American voice in the U.S. cricket ecosystem. Sam asks, it's interesting to see that the Grand Prairie Stadium has a spectacular fireworks display, but we don't see the same at Morrisville. Am I missing something, or do you know why? I think it's because they blew out the budget paying Aaman Patel to be part of the broadcast setup. I could be wrong. Do you know, is that true, Aaman? Can they not afford fireworks?
No,
Because
I'd say you're definitely wrong, Peter. I don't think my what they've paid me is blowing any budgets for anybody. But no, I'm very grateful for everything that they've given me and what the opportunity they've given me. But I think that the fireworks can be a combination of a couple things. The Church Street Park ground is about 5 minutes from the airport. And when I flew in from my flight from Barbados, so we had a layover in Miami, flew in to RDU, I could see Church Street Park from the window as I looked down as we approached RDU. So that's always a concern of how close those planes are. And I reckon that the town has some pretty strict rules about fireworks. We always get some notices around Diwali time about when you can launch them, how high you can launch them, and whatnot. So there's always those little, it's in a town area. There's a lot of houses around, so there's always those concerns. It's not like Grand Prairie where it's a little bit more away from maybe some residential housing.
and also a little bit further away from the DFW airport, it's still relatively close. It's only about 15-20 minute drive, but as you said, for anybody who's been to Church Street Park, you get the true Shea Stadium City Field effect where you've got planes flying overhead, taking off and landing all day long, and it's a signature feature of Church Street Park, so it makes perfect sense why you can't exactly just set off fireworks right in the vicinity of all the flights coming in and going out of RDU Airport. Tim comes in. Aaman, you've already backed Washington Freedom for the MLC Season 2 title. After witnessing the batting brilliance from the San Francisco Unicorns today, do you still stand by your prediction, or has their performance made you reconsider?
I've always liked this Unicorns team, Peter and Tim, and I've always felt that this team was very, very good. I think it's a question about a lot like last year's Unicorns team, to be honest, where you have a great top order, and then it's that middle order. You're like, okay, can they find success? Last time we saw the Freedom take on the Unicorns, the Freedom won that game. If you remember about Sarbnet the Valkers, 6 for 9 in that matchup, taking apart that top order. So I still think the Washington Freedom have the most balanced side in the tournament, but the X factors of the Unicorns are a lot like the X factor of MI New York. Is you have Nicholas Buda, and if he has 137, it could be a long day for any team. If Fraser McGurk or Finn Allen or Matthew Short come out with one of those types of innings, then you're going to win a T20 match. But I think Washington, I would just give them a slight edge just because I think their combinations work, and I think they're the deepest team in both sides of the ball.
So what you're saying, Aaman, is that you're not going to be pining for one of those Sparkle Army bucket hats with the unicorn horn popping out.
Oh, if I can get my
All
hands on one, I'll take it. I will take one if I can get my hands. We're all here for free merch. I think last year, one of the best parts about doing the PA was that I got a jersey from every team because I was supposed to wear the home jersey for every game. So that was one of the perks of last season. So anytime any teams want to give some free merch, I'm here to take it for sure. I have a lot of little cousins who are asking for some, so I have no shame in getting free merch.
Well, and as good as that unicorn bucket hat may look in terms of the thematic elements of it with the unicorn horn popping out, how do you put that thing in a suitcase or a backpack without it getting crunched or bent in half or just being torn off and the unicorn suddenly it's powerless because its magical horn has been destroyed by TSA or some other nefarious agent?
You got to wear it on the plane, Peter. That's what I think. That's the solution. You don't put it in the bag. That's the hat you wear on the airplane. Then you can make conversation with a lot of great folk, and I'm sure it's a great way to break some ice with some TSA folks as well, which can always help.
Well, the TSA folks are going to be kept busy by all the teams traveling back and forth between Texas and North Carolina throughout this MLC campaign, and we'll be back tomorrow to reflect on the next encounter between Washington Freedom and Texas Super Kings. And we want to remind everybody that not only are we going to have Piers Morgan on later in the week, but we've also lined up LA Knight Riders wicketkeeper and Ashes legend for making the English moan and moan and moan and moan and moan and moan. Alex Carey will be coming on the show, so we're looking forward to that as well. Alan, any final thoughts on today's events in Texas?
No, it was great. The fireworks were fantastic. It was cool to see the Unicorns make their debut in season 2. So now every team has made their debut, and now you can start forming your opinions. Every team only plays 7 games, Peter. So we're coming up to crunch time now. There's not a lot of time to figure it out. So we've seen MI play a couple of games, and now it's you're getting to the point where you got to figure things out quickly if you want a chance at those playoffs.
The Andres House and Sorbonne Walker American duo involved in the Washington Freedom, led by Steve Smith, take on Texas Super Kings Faf du Plessis unit at Church Street Park. That's all for this episode of U.S. Cricket Daily. I'm Peter Della Penna on behalf of Aaman Patel. Come back again for more in our next edition. Take care.